Full day today.
Is it? Those are
You're
hard.
listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
All right. A beautiful day outside. Too bad we can't do podcasts outside, Taylor. Is that possible?
I mean, we can make anything happen if the budget's there.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk to Debbie Beeman here at Promises
morning.
Community. You know, we haven't seen you since before Thanksgiving, so I'm sure y'all have been pretty busy.
Yes.
I don't know if you'll have a Valentine's Day special or whatever, but I know you are busy Thanksgiving and Christmas. And we're going to just talk about how y'all are at full capacity, basically, it sounds like. And for why is that, and what can be done about that, and whatever else, and also some of the other services Promises offer. Because Promises is more than just a food pantry. It has a lot of other services as well. And yeah, I know we're both members of First Baptist. We like to see this thing grow, but it's a necessary thing in this community.
Yes.
It really is. And you know, I talked to some of your peers, and they say the same thing. They said they've never been so busy.
Right.
We could talk about that all we want. I'll try to keep the politics out of it. But honestly, I'm going to have to really strain a little bit because I get tired of hearing about how great the economy is, and then I hear y'all talk, and it's you know, who are on the ground floor, so to speak, of what's going on, and it's still tough out there.
Yes.
And I just you know, I was like, come on, you know, stop with all the propaganda. We know things are tough, but anyway. Oh, good grief! I'm trying to get this thing to share. I hate doing this. Well, anyway, how you been?
I have been good. Like I said, we've been busy. And so I actually was able early January to take a few days off, which was nice to recharge. But we've been really busy and have a lot of pokers in the fire. So
I bet. You were telling me before the show you had some things going on. We'll get to that. But I do need to talk about our sponsors. Of course, Otto at our place. He's been around for a while. It's a great place, great service. What I like about our place, besides the food, is that it's a very familiar staff. You know, there you go there and you see the same people, and that tells me a lot about a manager owner. That if you have a loyal crew like that, particularly in the restaurant business. Speaking of restaurants, you know he's opened up that Gina's Pizza, right?
I did hear that. Yes. I haven't tried it though.
Well, you're relatively new to this area.
Yes.
But Gina's was here before I ever came here. It's been around forever, and so he took it over, and he's upgrading it quite a bit. And it's going to be open, he hopes, by the end of this month. But don't hold him to it. It's just, you know, every time you put some construction involved, it's always something going on. But it's going to be great because he really knows how to run a restaurant. Sorry. Okay, there you go. Also, Wild Cigar and Culture, you know, so if you feel like watching the game or you feel like just hanging out, you feel like having a conversation, they have a nice bar. They have a great selection of cigars. They got an outdoor area now that the weather's decent for a while. You can go out there and have a drink or a smoke, and it's a good place. I go there for a little sponsor care, and I've been there as a customer. And it's a very comfortable place also. So Wild Cigar and Culture, hope everything's going well for you and Nathan and Chris, because Chris has been ill as well. So, okay. Thank you to Tiffany Nico. She'll be on in about a month because she's hard to get on the show because she's so busy. But the magazine is out. It goes to 30,000 homes. It goes to a lot of different places. By the way, Tiffany also can help you with your social marketing if you need to. Some of your digital marketing needs and things of that nature. She's really good at that. So if you not only want to advertise with her, but you want her help in getting your name out there through social marketing, she can help you with that as well. So Local Life Magazine. Also, thank you to Southern Jim. A couple days from now, on the 8th, from 4 to 7, it's Bourbon and Bling. Oh, yeah, he's like, oh, really? Which is it, the bling or the bourbon? I don't know.
It'd be the bling.
Okay. Well, yeah, but what it's intended for is, you know, Valentine's Day is coming up in, a week from Wednesday. You know, we can't get away.
Yes.
You know, we just get away from Christmas, and boom, there's Valentine's. You know, we can't get away. But anyway, it's going to be a big deal because Gail really knows how to entertain. And so she's going to get some really nice bourbons. And also, while the men are having a sip, you know, they can also see what they could get their girlfriend, wife, whomever, your special person, some jewelry, and they also do repairs and other things like that. But this is trying to show off the inventory, which is very nice. Also, thank you to two maids, Brenda Ramirez. This is a good outfit. I don't know who does the cleaning at Promises, but they'd be a good one to talk to because they do commercial and residential, and they're members of BNI with me, and several of the people in BNI use them for both their homes and their businesses, and they just rave about them. What people really like about Two Mates is that it's not like an hourly rate or a set rate. Basically, they come in, they clean, you rate them, and that's what the payment's based on, is the quality of the service. And a lot of people like that because they really get really good service, of course. So if you're interested in having them come check out your place for a deep clean or maybe routine cleaning, 817-764-0733 or at twomatescleaning.com/Burleson. And Old Pro Roofing, John Williams, 817-734-2756. He'll check your roof out, make sure everything's good. And if it is, he'll tell you. If it's not, he'll tell you. He's not going to upsell you or make you feel like a doomsday scenario. You want to do business with home folks, particularly when it's your home related. You want people that you can know where they're at. And so Old Pro Roofing is in Old Town, and they've been part of this community for about 25 years now. Also, speaking of being part of the community for over 20 years, Camco. Sammy Campbell and Candy Gow, under various different companies, have been doing mortgage work for this community since early 2000s. I've used them twice in various other spots they've been in, and they do really good work. They're a good partnership. Sammy's at 817-778-4592, and Candy's at 817-925-2661. They'll tell you what's going on with the rates. I read about them, and, today it's this, tomorrow it's that. So you know how that goes. Okay, so how has it been since Christmas? You finally had time to maybe catch your breath and all that?
Yeah, we have. Right after Christmas, we saw incredible numbers that we had not seen before. So we were a little concerned what we were going to do, how would we expand. But it's come back down to a little bit normal. But the reality is the people coming in many times are people who have not been to Promises for a year or 2 years, and were relying simply on their food stamps or SNAP, and are back in coming each month instead of not. So we've had some increase in that. But here in February, and this is normal for us, we get into February, especially as we hit the middle of February, income tax comes back. And we always see a little bit of a dip there. It's not huge, but we're seeing a little bit of a dip. So that's been nice.
Why is it related to income tax?
Because they get it and they don't. They shouldn't have to buy their own food, but this is a demographic that doesn't usually get to go. Going to McDonald's for a family of four can cost you in excess of $20.
More than that, I can tell you.
They don't get to go out for fast food, and they'll do that. And so we might see them miss a month, and usually February, early March is when we miss those.
So they does slow down maybe a touch, but
yes,
that's interesting. Do you have like yearly stats you keep up with this? Like you could say, okay, compared to 12 months or 24 months,
yes,
here's what's happened. Okay,
yes, and on those, just in the last 2 years, this in 2023. We increased 55% over what we saw in 2022, and 2022 was 55% over 2021. So we are absolutely growing in the number that comes. And even though I say it's slower, what we're seeing right now used to be our busy numbers, that we would look at seeing maybe 30 families in a day, and we're seeing that now. So while it seems slow to us, it's what we used to consider a busy day.
But it used to be in the last 2 months, you were doing about 60 a day.
Yes.
Dave Thompson is in a Sunday school class, and he was talking about it about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he says that, he's been part of that for a little while. He says he's never seen anything like it. And I just, there's got to be a mix of reasons. I wonder, is it also because Promises has become more prominent in the last 2 or 3 years?
I do think that there's an acknowledgement of where we are. We had been kind of hidden behind the fence, so to speak. And we've done a couple of things intentionally to get our name out there. So I think that's part of it. But I still think that the biggest driver is the need. And we have many people now who, while they used to come just to us, maybe go to Harvest House, they are now hitting a number of them. Matter of fact, there's enough through the mobile pantries and senior shares. most of our clients could visit once a week, and they're having to do that now. So while they used to might have gone only to Harvest House and not to me, both of us are seeing that client who has a greater need.
Do y'all coordinate this kind of thing? You, Jennifer, whomever else, y'all get together and like, okay, we have these people in common, and maybe analyze our situation, so to speak.
We talk about some, especially if there's a financial need being asked for. We will partner together. Also with Pathway, I just went to them to ask them about a project. But we don't do as much on day-to-day food because they're eligible for all of that. Certainly for community events, Harvest House is wonderful at keeping me informed of what they do. They are out in the community a lot more than us. So Jennifer and Amber are really good at keeping us informed on that. As you know, last year we worked together on a project to be out in the community. So we do try to keep up with each other because we don't want to step on toes.
Right.
Especially since you have the same clientele. One of the things that has happened late last year that I think shows that is our senior share Thanksgiving bag giveaway, which any records that I could find once I took over up until last year, the largest number that we had ever served in that was 82 households. And last year for our Thanksgiving bag handout, we did 142 households.
Yeah.
That's considerably more. And I think that's just that there's a greater need out there.
Well, and I also with that space on Renfro, it's been open, about 3 or 4, well, it's been open longer than that, about a decade almost, right? But for, I've been part of this program in a sense since it originated. I was on the committee that formulated the idea way back in the late 90s, and it was out of the back of the church for a while, and there was in that small building that the physician center is in now.
Right.
And it really wasn't something that was nearly as prominent as Harvest House or some of the other type of direct-to-people type charities and whatnot.
Yes.
And when we opened up that Renfro location, it still was no more for counseling and things like that, and job training and things like that. It's only really been in the last 3 or 4 years, and I guess that's because of you, the food aspect of it has been greatly improved and enhanced.
It is. And, I think some of that is the counseling building is what faces the street. The warehouse is behind the gate or behind the fence. So it was more known for counseling, but it was only known by the people who came for counseling.
Right.
And so while it's known amongst professionals and we get referrals, et cetera, churches who will refer because they know we have counseling, you're right. It was relatively unknown for a good while.
Yes, and last time I was in there was about 3 or 4 months ago. Our Sunday school class has kind of adopted the Hughley Cancer Center, and we provide water, Gatorade, snacks, whatever. And Dave said, we got some that we can't use for whatever reason, but they're still perfectly good.
Right.
Because, those past due dates, and you think, those past due dates are really, it's still good. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I went there to pick some stuff up, a few boxes of that, and it's been a while since I'd been in the warehouse. And it's expanded, it's gotten bigger. The pantry's gotten bigger. The services have gotten bigger. I know that Dave is always telling us they need help with the shoppers, volunteers to come help people shop because they're just getting that kind of business.
Yes. We are getting that kind of business. We need volunteers to help with the shopping because we can see so many families, and if I only have 3 shoppers for that 3-hour period, many times they're walking in the door, they get a client right away, and they don't stop having a client until they go home 3 hours later.
So what does a volunteer do with these clients?
They walk with them around the shopping area. And I will tell you, it is easy. We have tags up on the shelf that will say, here's what we give from this area. But they are engaging with that customer, that neighbor during their shopping, where they'll get and say, okay, from here, they might be telling you can get, 3 large boxes and 1 small box, or you can get 8 cans from this area of this row. And so they're telling them what they can shop from to get. But they're also talking with them because these ladies or men might say, well, I I don't even know how to cook some of this. And those folks are saying, you know what? I just throw it in the crock pot, or it's just a simple, I'm a friend and I'm walking with you around. They do get in where lots of them will say, how are you doing? And they will say, well, my mother's having surgery, and they will tell them, I would be happy to pray with you. And lots of times they will help them with their groceries outside and pray with them, or they might pray before they ever go out. But if they indicate something like that, we're going to offer to be that prayer support, prayer warrior who will help them. And then the next time they come in, we can say, hey, how'd your mother's surgery go? Or how's this? We do have a wonderful lady, Shirley Ullman, who does a lot of that follow-up. And when we find out about some of those, we'll give them to her, and she'll call them and say, you asked us to pray for this. We were praying. How's it going? Is there something else we can pray for? You know,
Shirley Ullman is a well-known figure in this community. She's working in the school library and the church library for all those years. And I told you before the show, when my kids were real small, very little, we'd go by the church library, and she'd give them little fun-sized Butterfinger bars from Miss Shirley. And, you know, they were like 6 and 3. And it was the highlight of the church that day. You know, it's like, you know, a little treat for behaving in church, I guess, whatever. But, you know, she's been a real blessing to this community.
Yes.
And I hope Ralph is doing better. I know you said he was ill, but he's doing better.
He is doing better. Okay. But she is, and she was involved in the Job Corps that went on through Promises a number of years ago. So she met a lot of ladies then. But she is our one who we have some folks who are coming for financial counseling. While we've paid for them to go through Dave Ramsey, they are coming to talk at a more intimate level of this is how much I bring in, setting up a budget, helping some folks to do that. Shirley's excellent at it, and we have several that are going through that. So yeah, she's a wonderful resource, and just a work Trojan. She shows up and does it. And takes it very seriously, but she is a great prayer warrior and a great mentor.
Well, like I said, when I was a young man at the high school, she was somebody that I knew from church also, and so she was somebody that when the day was tough, I could go by and just visit with her and that kind of stuff. But anyway, as far as the food issues, okay, obviously I'm sure it's based on the size of the family and things of that nature. Do you have like this shopping list that okay, this is what we can give you because you have your mom with 2 kids. This is kind of like the suggested shopping list. Do you have something like that?
We don't have a suggested shopping list. I talked to some people on the Johnson County Coalition, Hunger Coalition, and some of them are doing that. I went to a collaborative at Baylor University last year.
Yes, sir.
It's a wonderful collaborative, and I always learn something there. I've been the last couple of years and have been looking at that. Is there a way that we could do something like that? But we do have something coming up, but it's not for our normal shopping. It is geared towards senior adults, 55 and older. They really want to target 60 and over, but our senior share goes by 55 and older, so we've made an exception for Promises. But I will be the initial person who does this in Johnson County. It's been done in Dallas County before, but what this is our senior population, while they may receive food stamps, the average amount that they get is $15 a month, which just doesn't feed a family even of 2.
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't feed a family of 1.
It didn't feed anybody.
Exactly. So what has been come up with that I'm anxious to do is that we're going to invite them in for a hour-long training session, so to speak, where we're going to provide them 10 recipes. We're going to provide them a shopping list that they could go to Walmart or Kroger, whatever, with their $15 and buy these particular items. And then with what they normally can get at a food bank or a senior share, we will tell them these are items that you would want to look for. You can make these 10 things, cook them at your home to where they don't feel so much like they're getting a frozen dinner. They're getting something that they can cook, they like, that will make enough for 2 people, probably 4 if you have a light appetite, which many of our seniors do. So we are very much looking forward to that. It's called Eating Healthy as a SNAP. A SNAP being the food stamps. So we are targeting some of that kind of comes along with what you're talking about, Brad, and anxious to see how it works out. Started out pretty slow in Dallas County. I will be the first training it here in Johnson County, but we hope it grows. And it's not just Promises that offers it, but others that will offer it as well.
So walk me through this. Okay, I'm a single dad. I got 2 small children. I need help for groceries. What, I walk in, just walk in and say, hey, I need help. I mean, how does, just walk me through the whole process.
You come in and many times they'll call and ask, what do we need to bring? But if you're going to come and apply to get food at Promises or any food bank that's monitored under USDA, you're going to need to provide a government-issued photo ID and proof of residence that I do live where I say I live. And that can be on your phone, a picture of an electronic bill or something that usually will have your physical address. Any other adult that you're claiming in that house is going to need to show that. And then children 18 and under, we need to see either Social Security card or a birth certificate. And again, it could just be a photo on your phone. You don't have to bring in the physical card or the certificate. And we're going to set you up. We do look at the guideline that's put out by the U.S. government of poverty guidelines, and you need to meet that for the number of people in your household.
Why is the government involved in this? This is a church organization.
Because we're involved. We are a partner agency of Tarrant Area Food Bank, which is supplied by USDA.
Okay, so that's the price you pay almost.
Yes.
So I hate to interject, but so basically, if you have somebody's just driving through the community,
we're going to give them food if they come by.
All right, that's what that I can't imagine us saying, no, I'm sorry, you don't have a photo ID. We can talk about this part in a minute after we finish this walkthrough, but there's a couple of questions that have already come up in my mind about this process. So anyway,
we will never deny anyone food.
I would think so.
And we actually sign a contract that says we will not deny food to anyone. So we've had people from as far away as Rockwall. I've had people traveling through Texas down 35 and end up, we're not far off the freeway. We were coming through here and somebody said this was a food bank. Can you give us food? And we're giving them food to make it the rest of their journey in the car. So there are times that we don't have all of this. Providing this just qualifies you for a year that you can come in really without question and get that food. But we've also had people who come in, provided that documentation, and they don't meet those qualifications. We will talk to them and find out what's going on. We have found some of them, their house burnt or a husband just left or whatever, and we will qualify them on an emergency plan, and we can qualify them for up to a year.
Well, I just didn't want people to hear this first part where you go through this kind of process, vetting process, and think, well, people are being turned away. They're not being turned away. It just basically it determines what they're qualified for and how much and what program and all this other stuff. I just, people hear this and they'll think, wait a minute, are you going to be, if they don't have all this stuff, are you going to say no to them? I just want to make that point very clear.
We give them options. So in the 5 years, I'm in my 5th year as director there, we have not ever denied anybody. We've said we can give you some food, but you would need, in order to get approved for the year, you're going to need to bring in this, so bring it next time. Or come back tomorrow. Or even if people come in late in the day, we will try to give them food and tell them we're open tomorrow at this time. We won't note anything that they got food because they are, the policy is that they can get it every 30 days. But you're going to leave our place with some food.
Right.
And if we need you to come back with information, we're going to give you enough to last you until you tell us you can come back.
Well, I just was thinking also a lot of people may not have that documentation, even if they're, legal citizens and all that. But also we have, of course, as you know, a real problem down south and, with the border. And I just wondered if that's impacting us here.
It has not. I will tell you, we've seen an increase in families from Ukraine.
Oh, really?
Yes. And not only is there a language barrier there, some of the documentation that they have is a little bit harder for us to read. They are leaving with food. They don't leave without the food. So we are not going to do that. We may have to talk about how can we get this information because I am inspected every year. And they want to know that I saw it. Another thing that I think is important, because we know that we have some illegals. We don't care. We don't care what your status is. I am signing a contract that says I looked at this. I didn't validate or anything. I'm not calling to do a background check. I'm not looking at your legal status, nor do I retain that information. I am just looking at it. Nowhere on our application will you provide your Social Security card or any of that. I'm just looking to say, I saw this for this child. They're validated.
Well, I hope so.
So
Yeah.
I think that could alleviate some of that hesitancy that some of our clients have.
We can have all the opinions we want of what's going on now at the border, but it doesn't matter. Human beings are being impacted.
Yes.
And I don't think Christ says, well, feed the poor if they have the proper documentation.
Right.
It didn't work that way.
Totally agree, Brad. And while we're going to ask for those, it is not to deter from getting food. And then if we can't help you, we're going to put you in touch with somebody who can help you to get anything so that we can.
Right.
But yeah, we run into some who've been here 6 months or whatever and still don't have an ID. Came across the border. I don't really care about your situation, and I don't mean that in a
right.
I don't care. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking that I can meet the requirements that I have so that I don't lose the ability to have the food pantry open. And that's it. We don't retain proprietary information like that. Name, address, phone number, and email is about all that we retain.
Well, I just have a real mixed opinion what's going on south of the border. We can't have an open border, but human beings are being impacted, and we can't just say, "Well, we're sure sorry that this is happening to you. Be on your way." Christ would
Absolutely.
demand that we take care of these people if they come into these type of places with needs.
Yeah, we do, and we have a good bit that will come across the border because they have a relative that lives here or whatever, and they come and stay with them for a while. So we get involved in some discussions, but we don't just say can't help you.
Right.
That's not what we do, and we're looking to be able to give them food before they leave that day.
Yeah, but I just saw a couple of news reports about the border communities and their food banks and their nonprofits. It was on NBC, I think, about a month ago. I think it was before Christmas, and maybe that had something to do with it. And they were just overwhelmed.
Yes.
And I just wondered if we're getting to that point, because this is not just a border problem. This is a nationwide problem.
I totally agree. And I do think that we're getting, if you just look at our homeless population in Burleson alone, we are involved in a way that used to not be in this area, and it is now. So I think that is an issue, and it becomes an issue for places like us. I had shared with you, I got to tour Mission Arlington a week or so ago, and Tilly Bergen was telling me some of the same issues that we face with trying to help the homeless, she faces, and it's not an easy fix. So I think that there has to be some people who are working to solve some of those issues, because I agree. I don't think that we can have just a wide open border, but we need to be able to handle people and treat them with dignity and respect who are here.
Exactly right. I mean, it wasn't like when Christ said the loaves and fishes, disciples, before you handed out, be sure to check their papers.
Right.
That's
exactly.
Not, and it's just, no.
Yeah.
But it's still, I don't have the solution to this problem really without getting into all these details, and I don't think anybody's going to have a solution to people.
Correct.
Like, we got a lot of criticism at BISD because we didn't ask for citizenship. We basically, that's a state law, so we're like, hey, go yell at Rick Perry. But basically, if they were residents in the district, the kids came in and we had the free breakfast and lunches, and people get all worked up about that. I'm like, okay, you could tell that little kid he's not going to have lunch because his mama brought him across the border.
Exactly.
I think people who sit in the abstract and complain about these kind of things are not involved like you are, and maybe they should be spend some time with you, and they'll maybe change their minds a little bit. I mean, it did it for me as a school teacher.
Right.
When I entered the classroom, particularly the high school classroom back in 1990, I had certain attitudes, and they went right out the window after a couple of years because I realized just how wrong those preconceived ideas were.
Yeah.
So,
I see some of that in a very intimate way with people who are fearful that we might have ulterior motives,
or you're going to report them or something like that. Yeah.
Yes. And we're looking to feed them.
You're right.
We want to give them food.
Right. Now, so kind of back to the scenario. We got off a little off track, I suppose. But anyway, on the scenario that I'm asking about, so I come in, I go through all this routine. I get to come in once a month. And so I come in, and there's going to be a shopper there that's going to walk around with me. And they're not supposed to be seen. They're not meant to be escorts to make sure you're not, taking too much. You're really there to kind of counsel you and what to get. Because I'm sure most people will probably respect the limitations, because you can't have somebody come in and take 15 cans or, all the cereal or whatever.
Right.
And I'm sure most people respect that.
And they're not there as the food police. They are there to make a connection.
Right. And they're there to say, well, if I were a dad and I'm trying to raise 2 children, I said, I don't know, is this any good? Having somebody there said, oh, well, here's what you can do to make with it. Or I do this or that. And it extends the meal, get 2 meals out of it and that kind of stuff.
And that's more of what they're doing. It is just a friendship. We're not trying to beat them over the head with the gospel. We're not trying to, do anything other than offer them somebody who comes alongside to help them and helps to supplement their pantry, because we're not even meant to be there to fill your pantry. We're there to help to supplement that.
How many of the clients are men? I mean, that would come by themselves or head of a family. We
have seen an increase in that. I don't have an exact percentage, Brad, but my best guess would be that probably 30% or so are men.
Really? Okay.
That would include some of the men who are homeless, who are head of that particular account. But I would say easily about 30% are fathers that have children, and some of them have wives, but the wives have a job that is not conducive for our hours. And so some of them, the father works at night and will come pick up the food during the day.
Well, now, as far as like the homeless, if they don't have a place to prepare these meals, I'm sure that makes the shopping list different. But how would somebody prepare meals on a routine basis if they have no home?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, we have a fair number who have homes but don't have an oven or a stove.
Really?
Yes. I help a client who has one hot plate, and that's it. So we have those, and we generally will have things that they could do. We keep on hand can openers, because you can't give them a can of food. They don't have a can opener to open it. So with homeless, first of all, we're going to give them food that is generally something they can just prepare, or it is an already cooked, like a rotisserie chicken that is frozen. I can give them that. We've even given them coolers. But you can put that frozen chicken in there. It's going to keep some other stuff cool for a while, but they can just let that cool or thaw out. They can eat it cold. It's still protein. It still feeds their belly. But we're going to make sure that they have a can opener to open cans. And while it might not be the most tasty, I can open a can of green beans and just eat the green beans.
I don't like green beans.
See, I love them. I remembered that you didn't, but I love them. But you could do that. Now, most of them will have maybe one bowl or something that's microwavable. And most places like Racetrack and QT and stuff will let them go in and heat up the meal. So they will get things like more of the snacks. They will pick them, but we encourage them to take things that they would be able to fix. We have from USDA, it's a pouch of beef stew. Everybody says it is delicious. I've never eaten it myself, but they say it's delicious. They said you'll have to hunt for beef in it, even though it's beef stew.
Right.
But it is delicious. And so they can, open up, get a slice of bread and put that over, and it gives some additional heartiness to it. Our homeless get to come shop every week instead of every 30 days because they usually cannot store. Those who have cars, their cars will be packed to the gills. Those who are living outside, they're generally going to tell you, I even though it might be against law, they're building a fire and they're cooking outside.
See, there's some in this community that says that we don't have that type of problem, that we don't have people that live outside in the, open air. That most of our homeless are transients and in their car. But I'm listen to you, listen to Jennifer, listen to Lisa Schwartz. That's not what's happening here.
No, there are people who are living outside.
Where are they living? Because I don't see them under the bridge like you do downtown Fort Worth.
They're not living behind the bridge, but you might be in a very nice subdivision or a community with nice houses. And back behind that community runs a small creek that might be dry on half of it. But bottom line, there's a line of trees by that creek. They're going to be down there.
Well, let's see. I've been told that I was just exaggerating the problem. That just for whatever reason they would want me to say that.
I will tell you the probably more than 50%, maybe as much as 60% of the homeless that we know of do have a vehicle that they are trying to stay in. They are run off from places all night long. But I also know specifically of some areas where we have some homeless. They kind of congregate there. There'll usually be 4 to 6 or so there. And, they get picked up. Sometimes they'll get picked up and we won't see them for 45 days or whatever while they're spending time, and they lose everything they had.
I had Colin Gregory on here with Stephanie Beard and their victims assistance. It's more than just for criminal-related activities, but also what we're talking about here. And, Colin had several stories of Burleson police feeding these people out of their own pockets.
Yeah.
Taking them to, some place to eat or getting them some food or whatever else, or providing them with what they need, things like that. And so we have a community that has a good heart for this.
I think we have an excellent community. I am very, very impressed with Burleson and its leadership.
Right.
And that they care. About a month ago, maybe, I don't remember the exact date, but it's been at least a month. The fire marshal of Burleson came to see me, had a person who called them a caretaker of an older man. And he wanted to talk to me to see if maybe there was some help that we could give them. And as he started talking about it, I called out his name. I said, "You're talking about so-and-so." And he goes, "You knew that?" And I said, "He's been a client here for a long, long time." But his house had fallen into disarray. It's a trailer. It was unsafe due to the wiring. He had rats had eaten through the wiring in that home, and he had run an extension cord across the ceiling and had 3 outlets that were working in the entire trailer. And first of all, it's a great fire hazard.
Yeah.
Plus, you need more than 3 outlets in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath trailer. But bottom line was in bad shape, and we have been able to come alongside and through some donations and stuff, being able to completely rewire his home. It's been stripped to the studs so that we can put in clean, healthy place for this gentleman to live. So my point is, this is a community that sees it, and instead of just saying, "I don't know, go find some help," fire department took it on and came and started looking for that help.
Besides just food, you also offer financial assistance for like rent or utilities, whatever else. What you described here, though, is even beyond that. Do we have like a means of how we could help people with their homes and, and stuff like that? Because I know in our church we have guys that have volunteered their time for, electrical work or plumbing work or things like that. I just wondered if you yourself or the Promises had a list of people that, if somebody comes in and says, "I don't have any electricity because, my wiring's out."
We do. I have a list of a number of places that, through my connections through different charities and stuff in the neighborhood, I know. But yes, we have. Matter of fact, we lost that for a while. Some of our older gentlemen at the church were the people that we would call on, and they could do anything.
Right.
They were the Ralph Ullmans of the church, and they got to be too old.
Right.
And we were struggling to get them, but I have Tim Christian, who's done a wonderful job of getting a crew together, and they've helped to fix a plumbing leak at an older gentleman's home that couldn't afford it. They ended up having to replace some of the floor and flooring. They did a great job. I'm now trying to ask them, can you build a ramp for this man? He's now in a walker for sure, in a wheelchair sometimes. So being able to do that kind of thing, we have people that if we can get the labor, lots of times we can get the materials donated through Lowe's or Home Depot or even Walmart, who has been very generous. So we do have people that we can call on. Sometimes it can be an issue getting them soon enough, and sometimes they need more help than just putting in a ramp.
Right.
So we do partner together. Matter of fact, we partner together because if I get taken by somebody, then I'm usually going to have a few people on my list that I'm going to be calling to say, make sure this, because we want to help people, but we want to help the people who need help.
Right, but you don't get taken that often.
Oh no,
okay, I didn't.
I have twice in the 5 years I've been here.
Yeah.
So
okay.
it's not often, but there's that coalition, so to speak, of charities in Johnson County.
Well, see, and unfortunately, there are people with the attitude to think that the majority of your clients actually are able to support themselves,
Yes.
but they're choosing not to. And I just know that's not what's happening.
Yeah, that's not our target.
Well, that's not what's happening. I mean, most people that come there, I think in many cases, are reluctant to come there.
And people do. You mentioned Stephanie Baird a while ago, and I've been contacted by her numerous times, but one of the times she was calling all over because the project was large enough, and there were probably 4 agencies involved where we were each contributing part to make that happen. But it was a gentleman who had a young family and he was dying of cancer. We wanted to get his wife set up to where they would be able to carry on.
Well, see, in like I think about somebody in my case. If I were in that situation, I would be reluctant to come to y'all, not because of I don't know, my pride would be in the way. That's the best way to put it, I guess. I would think as a man I should be able to take care of it and all this other stuff. So I would imagine a lot of your clients, as much as they enjoy your company, you just as soon not be in that situation.
Absolutely. And they'll tell us that when they come through the door. A lot of times it took everything I had to walk through the door. Just the other day I was helping a lady, and she told me once she got into my office and we were talking, she drove around the block 3 times around Promises before she could convince herself to pull in. And then at the end, and this is a woman who did not ask for money. She just felt her life was over. And she came in and we were able to come alongside her. She said, when I walked in here, I thought my life was over and I'm leaving with hope. So we do more than food and money. We are trying to help neighbors. We ended up giving her some other help as well. To try to get that. But my point is, most people do not want to come through our door and ask us.
Well, because it's a pride issue.
Yes.
They think it's an admission of failure or something like that.
Totally.
Or it's their fault. And things happen in this world that's not their fault, and, illness, job loss, whatever.
Right.
And, I'm just really glad we have a community that has not just yours, but all these other outlets to help people out. And as far as we were talking about this earlier, if we could double the space at Promises now, and you'd still be busy, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's in the plans for our church anytime soon. But hang on there. You just get excited. No,
I do. I get really excited.
Yeah.
We have some talk. We're doing some things at the warehouse, Brad, that will help us. One of the things coming up pretty quick is we have a canopy that's going to be put up outside, which will help us with some of our ministries, such as Senior Share or Kids Eat Free, because used to the regular pantry would be closed down when those went on, and we want to keep the regular pantry open as well as be able to serve those people who are here for those events. And so we had to have a way to do that in any weather. And so we're fixing to get a nice size canopy attached or at the end of the warehouse. So we are trying to do not necessarily expand footprint as in square footage inside, but ways that we can utilize the property, the campus.
Well, it'd be pretty tough to finance a new building because, the thing is, it's still a relatively new building.
Yes.
It's been open about 10 years roughly, I believe.
Yes.
And it's it's almost like we built it, and then within a couple of years, we were out of space.
I make that comment all the time. We got a new building and lost space because we don't have the storage space that we used to. There's been many talks about purchasing or trying to find a way to have storage that would be outside the building. But you have to remember you're having to keep food at a certain temperature, all
Right.
those things that can add money to that. But yeah, we've talked about that because we not only got the new building, which is predominantly shopping, which is wonderful and good, and people love that. But we added a walk-in freezer because our counseling is growing so much. We had to move my office and Shirley's office, and that took up space over in the old warehouse. So we lost space, but added a whole new building, which is an oxymoron, or should be.
I know, but where you're at now, you really couldn't just increase the space. And as far as I've heard no conversations about maybe we need to build another building and make it bigger because, that would be quite a project for even our church, which is a decent-sized church. But.
There has been brief conversations, though, of do we need to start looking for different property? Because counseling is busting at the seams.
Exactly.
Which is right there on the campus with us. And then there's not really an effective way for us to expand the building of the warehouse beyond what we already have. Plus, we're in Old Town where we are, and there's historic things that come along with that.
Right. I was talking to Camille Bransom, who's part of that Old Town Burleson Association, and if you want to build an Old Town, there's a little more bureaucracy and detail than just throwing up a building. You have to abide by certain codes and certain type of appearances and things of that nature. And so it's interesting. Maybe if they move the counseling center to like across the street or something like that, would that give you all enough space?
Yes, and there's been some talk about that, of how we could do that and yet get them moved into a nice space as well. It's been more of just kind of come up in meetings and briefly talk, well, maybe we could look at that, but there's not been an earnest attempt to do that yet. But yeah, we could expand the space. If we could get some more volunteers, we would be able to expand our ministry.
Are most of your volunteers people our generations?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'd figured.
Yes.
Are they mostly women?
Yes.
Okay, so you need some male shopper help.
We're getting better at that. We've added some in just the last 2 weeks. We've added some additional volunteers, which I would be remiss if I didn't say we have amazing volunteers. They are wonderful, and our clients, they will leave saying, I came in here very hesitant, but you have made me feel very good. So I think we do well at showing dignity and respect to this demographic.
Well, I just was thinking, though, majority of probably your clients are women. The majority of your volunteers are women. I just wondered if sometimes it'd be helpful to have a male volunteer, to help with the shopping.
We do. We actually have several male volunteers. Now, most of our men are doing the stocking type, heavier work. The deliveries that we get are going and picking up. But we have a number of, not a lot. We maybe have half a dozen men who will do the shopping. So they get in there. If we're busy enough, they will get in there and do it, and they do a wonderful job. But even those who aren't doing the shopping are usually come through the reception area just to say hello and shake their hand. And so our men are pretty visible, but they don't do a lot of the shopping. The women do it.
Well, I think it'd be important for the men to be visible because, you know, every church needs men. They really do.
Absolutely.
And what, I do most of the cooking in our house. Robin, she's a good cook, all right? It's nothing like that. I enjoy it. And she works at the jewelry store late enough and I have time to cook. I decided, somebody like me could probably use some help because, we know how to make a meal last more than one meal because, like we were talking about earlier, the economy is what it is.
Yes.
I don't care what you read in the papers. It's really still hard on a lot of people. And I saw an article today that credit card debt is at an all-time high. So a lot of times they talk about expending is still rising. Well, it's just on credit. They talked about last week about we had 350,000 new jobs. Well, 75% of those are part-time.
Right.
All right. 15 hours or so. And that means no benefits, not enough. You can't live on a part-time salary.
No.
And the reason why there's so many part-time is because their full-time job doesn't pay them enough to get by.
And that's the preponderance of our demographic. It's not lazy people. The preponderance are people who are working hard, but they're making minimum wage or barely above it, and you can't.
There's not even twice the minimum wage.
Yes.
And it's, that's what got to me, is because I've worked in the grocery business a long, long time ago, and I remember we had about a crew of workers, about like 10, that worked 30 hours a week for the grocery store I worked for, and then they, as a group, they go work for the Target down the street, and the two managers would coordinate their schedules so they wouldn't conflict. I thought, these guys are working 60-plus hours a week, and they're not getting any insurance or any benefits at all.
Exactly.
And so that no wonder people listen to Bernie Sanders,
Well, and some of those might be working at a fast food restaurant or something. Some of them are managers at those and still struggling and have to get two jobs, or they struggle to meet the demands of their existence. And it's not an exorbitant existence. Right.
And so I think our news media kind of gives this gloss that everything is doing better. I think they may have their political motivations for doing so, but the reality is it's hard, a lot harder now, just for an average person to get by than it was 10 years ago. And the inflation and the rent increases and the gas costs and the vehicle costs and the repairs are very expensive, as I found out.
Yes.
And all these things that, I also read that more than half the American families could not handle a $1,000 emergency. And, and you see this every day.
Yeah. This last week, I was talking to my neighbor. We need to replace a section of fence that runs between my house and his house. And, I consider myself very blessed, but I'm still thinking, okay, now how do I get this and pay for this? I think we all face some aspects of that. But certainly the demographic that we have, I think so many times the opinion is that they're just lazy. And we certainly have a few of those. But the preponderance are people who've worked hard all their lives.
And that's why they're reluctant to come in.
Yes.
Because they feel like they failed, which sometimes it's not so much their failure at all. It's just the failure of the society sometimes. I really believe that, it's I'm trying not to get too political in your time, but it really bothers me that this is not an issue that is addressed more.
Yeah.
That, even though the stats may be telling you one thing, the GDP growth was great. Well, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean to your clientele? Nothing.
I think I've shared at least part of this story before, and I'll just make it really quick. But we had a gentleman who came to us and was mortified that he had to walk through our door. But he had become homeless. He was living in his truck. He had had an accident, had gotten hurt, and was going through all that goes along with getting some type of assistance because he was injured through a work issue. And he got to come in because he's homeless. We let him come in every week, and he would come in every Monday morning. Always kept himself so neat. I was impressed with him. But my point to his story is he kept telling us, I can't tell you how much I hated to come here, what it took for me to come in. I'm telling you, I was hungry because I wouldn't have come, but I had no other options. And he kept telling us, when I get a settlement, when something is done and they get me a settlement for the fact that I can't work right now, he said, I'm going to make a donation. And that man did. He came in, and when he was paying me what he wanted, I said, and kept telling him, you don't need to pay us. We don't look for money. We're looking to be able to help you. He said, no, you saved my life. And I look at that because it was a man who was used to working. He wanted to work. He was made not to, and through bureaucracy, he ended up almost a year before he was able to get that. And he ended up moving off to Florida. But before he left, he gave us a portion of that settlement, but it was because he was so petrified to come in the door, but found that there was a friendly face on the other side.
I would empathize with that man.
Yes,
I really would.
I absolutely can see how he would feel that way.
Well, just pride thing. But still, I'm glad to hear that we have this organization where nobody walks out without groceries.
We will not deny food.
And despite all the bureaucracy in the USDA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we're not going to let that red tape and bureaucracy keep us from doing what's the right thing to do.
Right.
I wish sometimes that when I talk to you or Jennifer or Lisa or others that you could see a positive trend in this, but it sounds like you're fighting against the tide sometimes.
I think we have all felt that, and certainly last year seemed to be a year where that was prevalent. The thing that is different to me that would say I think it is a positive tide is that there has been a camaraderie that has been created between the charities. And I think that can only help going forward. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I still remember that show we did back in September that you sat on the couch and talked to all amongst y'all and I don't know, just the mutual support and camaraderie and the affection that y'all had for each other was very touching. I think this community should see more of that. And that's why I always say this all the time, even to the point of redundance. I'm so blessed to be sitting here to talk to y'all because I get to see it for myself. And a lot of other people, they may be aware of it, but they're not really aware of the extent of what y'all are doing for this community.
Right. I am very appreciative that you give us an opportunity to, Brad, because I can say it, but you got to keep saying it.
Yeah,
you just got to keep preaching.
I think I have. Let's see what I got coming up. I know that this is political season, so I got some candidates coming up pretty soon. But let's see. Today being Tuesday, on Thursday, I have a doubleheader. Actually, at 11, I have Colin Gregory. He's going to be bringing a gentleman in, I believe, that talks about the schools about drug issues. Part of the Burleson Police.
Very good.
And then at 4:30 to 5, it depends when he gets here, Dale Hanna, our district attorney in this county. And let's see, next week I have Dwayne Burns, our state rep. And after that, Matthew Lucci, who's running for District 25 Congress, BISD. I'm seeing, where's my next nonprofit? Oh, it's going to be in about 3 weeks. It's Jennifer at Harvest House. So, but like February's all booked up with a lot of it is candidates. And that's just this time of year. So it's part of it. But anyway, I sure appreciate what you do. You make our church look good.
Well, thank you very much, Brad. I don't know that it's me doing it, but we got some great volunteers.
Well, I hope in the near future we can start discuss as a church expanding our reach even further.
Yes. Very good.
Taylor, thanks for all your help as always.
Always.
And I'll see you on Thursday with that doubleheader. It's going to be a really busy day for all of us. And I'm looking forward to talking to both Colin Gregory and Dale Hanna.
Yes.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. Take care, y'all.